on Wall Street.
Yes, we have. Now, this all follows those comments late on Wednesday night from the head of the Federal Reserve, Ben Bernanke, where he said that this accommodative monetary policy, this buying of bonds and low interest rates, will continue for the foreseeable future. Investors have liked that. It pushed, as you say, Wall Street, the main indices, up to some new record highs, all of them, as you can see, up over 1% there. Just some other good news as well on the American finances in general. A rare surplus of $116 billion was recorded in June. That was helped by some big dividend payments from the mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But what that's going to do is help out the overall picture for the year. Now, the US is still going to record a deficit for the year, but it's going to be much lower than a year ago. $670 billion, in fact, versus the figure for the last fiscal year, which was just over $1 trillion. So that'll be welcome news for President Obama, I suspect.
Indeed. And how are the Asian markets looking then this Friday?
Well, we saw big gains on Thursday, also after those comments from Ben Bernanke. We're seeing caution returning to the Asian markets this Friday. A lot of that's to do with some nervousness ahead of GDP figures out of China, which are due on Monday. You can see there most of the main indices slipping back slightly. Also, we heard the Chinese finance minister earlier today saying that growth overall in China for this year likely to be around 7%, and that's lower than this 7.5% figure that they have been talking about thus far. Just some other news as well. This is on Ireland. The Standard & Poor's rating agency has decided to upgrade its outlook for Ireland from stable to positive, and it says the reason for that is that Ireland has managed to bring its debt level down faster than expected. Ireland, of course, another country that needed a bailout. That one was an 85 billion euro bailout back in 2010.
An overused phrase, but could it be turning a corner? We'll have to wait and see. And staying in Europe, another country that received a bailout, Portugal, is asking for more time to get its finances in order.
That's right. Their bailout slightly smaller, 78 billion euros. But yes, Lisbon was due to have a visit from the inspectors, if you like, from the troika of creditors. That was supposed to be on Monday. They've now asked for that to be pushed back to the end of August. That's part of this ongoing political crisis that they're dealing with. Siobhan Silk has more.
Portugal is trying to stall the auditors. The EU, ECB and IMF troika was due to look at the country's accounts on Monday as part of its regular assessment of the €78 billion bailout programme. But the government has asked it to hold off until next month, citing the current political turmoil. Ministers have jumped ship over Portugal's austerity programme. A cabinet reshuffle hasn't done anything to stabilise the government. The president, who has the power to dissolve parliament, has instead proposed a cross-party agreement in the hopes of staying on course until the bailout expires next June, then calling early elections. Protesters in the parliamentary chamber on Thursday don't want to wait. They want the government out now. They're sick of spending cuts and tax increases, austerity measures introduced with the bailout and blamed for worsening the recession. Portugal is suffering a record unemployment rate of 18%, and the economy is expected to contract by over 2% this year. And the political row threatens to plunge the country yet further into crisis. Portuguese markets have dipped in response, while the 10-year bond yield is hovering at around 7%. At that rate of borrowing, the Treasury is unlikely to be able to meet requirements to exit the bailout on time next year. If Portugal simply can't make its payments, a write-off and a possible second bailout are looming.
Siobhan Silk reporting there. Well, let's get some of the day's company news now. And the low-cost airline EasyJet will place an order for 135 Airbus A320 planes after all. Now, that follows objections from the company's founder, Stelios Haji-Iouannou. Now, his family owns 37% of the company and had claimed that this was a bad deal, but a majority of shareholders have voted in favour.
Big changes at Microsoft. Company boss Steve Ballmer has announced plans to reorganize the way it operates. Teams will be built around devices such as phones, games, consoles and services. It's part of a plan to make the company more responsive to changing technology.
And the Finnish phone maker Nokia is pinning its hopes on a new handset. It launched the Lumia 1020 at a flashy event there in New York. The phone's main feature, a 41 megapixel camera. But Nokia's fallen behind its rivals Samsung and Apple in the smartphone market.
And Matthew, you're going to finish off on your home turf, and the Queen was opening a special event at Buckingham Palace.
That's right. I wasn't invited though, Claire, I'll tell you that. It was the Coronation Festival, and an event at which around 200 companies were brought together. And these are companies that hold the royal warrant, and that is that's the seal of approval, if you like, that means they can supply the Queen and her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, also the Prince of Wales, her son. A number of companies. One of those exhibiting there was the car company Jaguar Land Rover, and the Queen got a chance to inspect one of their latest models. I'm not sure if we see her actually hopping in there and taking the wheel, but this event was to mark 60 years since she had her official coronation, and it's open for 4 days. Around 50,000 people expected to go there to the Buckingham Palace garden to take a look. Let's hope the weather stays as nice as it looked there for them.
Indeed, a seal of approval from the Queen. Thank you very much, Matthew Warren, for that roundup of the business news. Next, it's time for web news here on France 24. We go to Tunisia, where